Welcome back to our channel, North Carolina Living. Today we are in the rural gardens again, and man, do I have a treat for you. We are ready to get this summer garden rocking and rolling. The wives' tale or rule of thumb is to wait until Mother's Day to plant. So I think we're perfectly fine. I planted around this time last year and did very well. So today I just want to kind of show you what we have to work with, and then we are going to get this summer garden planted. All right, so let me show you what I'm working with. So when Bryan and I purchased this property, I was lucky enough to have this little space sectioned off, and the previous owners basically planted in the ground. But I decided I don't want to deal with planting in the ground. I want to do raised beds. I think it's a little bit more economical for the space that we have. We always say work smarter, not harder. So this allows us to keep our weeds down and just give us a specified space for what we want to grow. And the things I've learned is I always have grand ideas on what I want to do, but when it comes down to it, like, we have a certain variety of vegetables that we enjoy. So we're going to kind of hone in on that this year and just focus on that. So come on in and let's see what we're working with. So last year, Bryan purchased this cattle panel for me, and in my mind, I always envision just arches. And my plan here is we're going to grow cucumbers and then green beans on either side and let those trellis up. And I have 4x4 beds here on my left and 2 4x12 beds on my right. Now last year we did corn in one bed, and the back bed I did cantaloupe and watermelon. Well, the corn was so good that this year we're gonna do 2 beds of corn. I just wanted to show you the area that I have. As you know, we have a lot here in Hendersonville, and it's not huge, but we are maximizing every space we can to get the most out of it. And I'm so excited to bring you guys along and show you exactly what we're doing today. Starting out at the back of the garden, I wanted to display this bench. So this bench is something that my stepfather Jim had gifted me and Bryan when we were in Oklahoma. And of course it traveled out here with us, and I thought what better place for it to be than at the back of the garden, so that I could come out here and just sit and watch my garden thrive. And gardening was something that Jim and I had in common, and that we had so many conversations about. And it actually was one of the last conversations that I had with him. Right before we went to Oklahoma back last May, I had called him and told him that I was planting a garden. And the question he always asked, are you planting corn? And I said, yes, I am planting corn. And we went back to Oklahoma, and I came back, and my corn, after he had passed, came back, my corn was thriving. And it was just, I don't know, an amazing feeling to think Jim's here with us in our garden, and I just wanted to make sure he had a place here because that was something that was very special to both of us. But anyway, so I have here a couple of tomato plants, some marigolds, some fertilizer, some corn, and some seed packets. And the tomato plants I purchased at Bullington last weekend. And man, these things have doubled in size since I purchased them, and I am ready to get those going. Marigolds are amazing to add to the garden to deter different pests. So I make sure every year I have a marigold somewhere in each bed. Doesn't have to be a lot because they do spread and they grow pretty good. But you want to make sure you have some companion plants to go in with your vegetables to help offset those pests and different things like that. So the corn I have is peaches and cream. And I actually purchased this at a local nursery in Etowah, which is just right outside of Hendersonville. This corn, it is the sweetest, juiciest corn I think I've ever tasted, which is why we decided to do 2 beds instead of 1, and why I got the mega patch. So a few other things that I'm just gonna toss in and do from seed. Last year I did these Blue Lake stringless. Now I just purchased these at Lowe's. You can purchase seeds wherever you feel, or wherever's close to you. And then sometimes you can get a catalog, which is my goal for the future. But anyway, for starting, these Blue Lake stringless. I grew these from seed last year and they did phenomenal. So I'm really excited to get them on this cattle panel because we'll have a double production. And then I'm gonna do a little chaos gardening. So I don't know how many people have heard of chaos gardening. I'm sure plenty of you have, but chaos gardening is literally just tossing seeds. So I have a bed that I have one lonely carrot that has decided to sprout this spring. So in that bed, I'm gonna do carrots and green onions. I have 2 different types of carrots. I have a rainbow mix because I think it looks fun, and who doesn't want different colored veggies? And then I just have a regular long emperor. And then I got some organic garden tone herb and vegetable food. So what I'm gonna do with this before I actually plant the beds is I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit on it and then mix it in before I do the plants. That way when they get watered in here in a little while, because it's gonna rain again this afternoon, that'll help release that fertilizer into the soil and just help give the plants a good start. So that's what we have here, and then we'll just kind of move forward and I'll kind of explain what I'm gonna do. So there is a method called the 3 Sisters method. I'm not gonna do that in detail or in depth, but I am gonna plant some squash and zucchini with the corn because the nutrients that the zucchini and squash give off really help the roots of the corn. And then along with the corn, along the cattle panel will be green beans. So that's the 3 sister method: green beans, corn, and squash. And they just really help each other thrive. So we're gonna do that. And this bed is actually going to be my pepper bed. So last year, my pepper bed was actually the first bed as you come into the garden. And one thing you want to try to do, if you can, it's not always going to be the case, but you want to rotate your crops. You don't want to plant the same thing in every bed each time. It just helps break up the soil, the different nutrients, and you also want to make sure that you don't plant certain things where you planted last year, because the nutrients that are left over can kill the plant that you just planted. I'm learning. I am not an expert by any means. Bryan purchased me this wonderful companion planting book for Christmas. So I've been really trying to dive into that and really learn what goes well with each other. So anyway, this will be the pepper bed. And then last year, that was my broccoli bed and tomato bed. And last year, this was my pepper bed. But this year, we're gonna put our cucumbers. And again, I got these cucumbers at Bullington, and I mean, I am not kidding when I say Bullington has the most premium plants I've ever seen. These things were probably 6 inches tall when I purchased them, and they've doubled in size as well. They're not necessarily a pickling cucumber, it's just a regular. And then I also have some red and green cabbage, along with some cauliflower. And then I've got some lemon balm. So the lemon balm is supposed to help kind of like a marigold and deter pests, but it pairs very well with cucumbers. So it's gonna go in this bed. But we have a lot of planting to do. I'm so excited to get this garden going so that we can watch it thrive. And we'll bring you along for the ride. We'll show you what we get throughout the season. But for now, let's get these plants in the ground.
All right, babe, what are you doing right here?
So here I am kind of establishing where my rows of corn are gonna go. I did this last year and it worked okay. So again, we're just utilizing our resources that we have on hand. So we have a lot of these different tree stakes. So what I'm doing is I'm actually creating my rows with the tree stake by just, you know, gently pressing it into the dirt to kind of create that row. And then I'll bring my trowel in after that and kind of widen it just a little bit to where we'll put the seats. So Bryan had a great idea. Originally I was gonna start all the way at the top, but he said, why not start that back here? One, our rows won't be so compact or tight. And two, after he said that, I was like, that's a great idea, because I'll actually do my squash and zucchini up here. I was just gonna put it on the sides of the bed, but that I think will actually work out a little bit better. And again, all three things that are gonna go in this bed, the green beans along the trellis, the squash and zucchini, and the corn, they all companion very well together. So I'm just gonna get these lines set and get this corn planted. Small trowel and just kind of running it back and forth on that line. You want to plant your corn seeds roughly 1/2 inch to 1 inch in the ground. So I'm not going too terribly far deep. And the little trench that I'm creating, I'll be able to just come back and fold that dirt right back on top. Keeping it simple. I don't have to, you know, work too hard doing this. So I absolutely love seeing the worms in the bed. They are everywhere in these beds. Every time I disturb the soil, 1 or 2 or more pop out, which is amazing because that does tremendous things. It aerates the soil underneath and just allows for proper water drainage, all of that good stuff. And not only that, they're gonna poop in this thing, which is gonna add even more fertilizer for me. But this is actually bagged soil. I'll have Bryan link the video from last year where we created these beds, and it'll show you and explain what soil we used. I have been very, very impressed with this soil. It has its own fertilizer, it has its own peat moss. It just has all the components that you would need if you were mixing your own. So check out that video and you'll see what we're using. We're gonna get this corn planted, but I wanted to kind of highlight this brand again one more time. So this is Peaches and Cream Corn. I purchased it from Starting Gardens, which is out towards Etowah, and it's just right outside of Hendersonville. Last year we grew this and we had a wonderful production. Now last year I just had this one bed. I had 4 rows in this bed, which it was a little crowded. So this year I'm only doing 3 in each bed, and hopefully I'll be home to be able to space those out this year. But we should, in about 70 days, be able to harvest this. Again, it was some of the sweetest, juiciest. It was beautiful. It had white and yellow kernels all throughout it. So I'm very excited to plant this Peaches and Cream. Now, I told you that my stepdad Jim and I, we talked about gardening, we talked about corn a lot, but gardening is just very nostalgic for me. My biological father, he passed away when I was 18, and I was out in the garden with him all the time. And he told me that when you're planting corn, you should always plant 3 kernels in each spot. 1 for Mother Nature, 1 for the birds, and 1 for you. So that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I did last year, and we had a really high yield. So I'm gonna get this corn planted. So let's get it done. with where I have my corn planted and spaced out, so now it's time to cover. And I'm simply just gonna go back and forth with those trenches that I had created, and then just lightly pat it. Oops. So just doing like that. Pretty simple. In an effort to save you guys from a very long video, I'm gonna actually save the container plants for another video. So my tomatoes, blackberry and blueberry, stay tuned for the video for those. We're gonna get in here, we're gonna knock out getting these beds planted. We're gonna start off here with these cucumbers. Again, I purchased these at Bullington Gardens. They're called Cucumber Gateway. It's just a regular cucumber, not a pickling type, but I'm excited to get these going. And then we're gonna plant some cabbage and cauliflower back here behind them. So anyway, let's get these plants planted. We'll get this wrapped up so that we're not boring you guys, but let's get this done. Moving right along. Now we're going to dive into this pepper bed. I've got 4 bell peppers. We have grown to really love bell peppers this year. So I've got a red, a green, and a purple. And then Bryan also picked out a bell pepper at the Blue Ridge Community College. And that one is called California Wonder. That's actually what I grew last year. They grow pretty big, they're green. But they get really good size, so perfect for cooking, grilling, whatever you need to utilize them for. One thing I watched on a video last year, and I actually did to my peppers, it sounds really wrong to do, but after I get these planted, I'm actually gonna come in and I'm gonna clip the tops of these peppers. What that allows, it allows that plant to focus on widening, which in the long run gives you more produce. I had bell peppers and peppers just coming out of my ears last year because I did that. And like I said, it seems so wrong. It sounds like something you shouldn't do, but it really yields a higher crop when you do that. Forgot, I've got 2 more plants and then some green beans that I need to go or put in the ground. So I've got a couple of marigolds that I added to the end of this bed, and we've got a green griller zucchini. I've actually never heard of that, so I'm excited to see what that does. And then just a long neck squash. Those are a pretty common garden variety. I am going to space these out a little bit because they definitely grow quite big. And then I have these 2 different types of green beans. They're both pole beans, which means they're actually going to trellis. They do the same things that the cucumbers do. They shoot off these little vines that just curl around the fence as it grows. And last year I did the blue lake. This year I'm going to do both. I'm going to plant probably 3 of each along this fence line. They did amazing last year, so I'm not worried about how well they'll do this year. But this is the last that I have to plant, so we're gonna wrap up this video. I really appreciate you guys tagging along and watching me plant my summer garden. I have been procrastinating, but the time is here, and I am just excited to watch everything flourish. And you know, we're gonna bring you along for the ride. We'll show you our harvest as the time comes. But anyway, until then, have a great day.